Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. I am so pumped today to share these delicious fall recipes with you. All of these are nice and cozy and definitely favorites of mine to have when the weather starts to cool down. I truly hope you enjoyed today's video, so let's just go ahead and get on into it. First up today, we're making this Beyond Easy Crockpot cube steak and gravy. Into my crockpot, I am adding in 1 cup of beef broth, 1 package of onion soup mix, 2 10-ounce cans of cream of mushroom soup. Go ahead and just give it a little bit of a mix. That way most of that can get combined. It doesn't have to be perfect. Once it cooks, it'll be a lot easier to mix up. After you get that mixed up, go ahead and add in your cube steaks. I was using a 4-pack and this was about 1.5 pounds of cube steak. I just tried to press them into the gravy mixture a little bit. That way they were at least mostly covered. Now I'm just adding my lid and letting this cook on a low heat for about 6 hours. After that 6 hours, you'll just add in 2 tablespoons of cornstarch into a small bowl. And I just mixed that with a very small amount of water, just enough to mix it together. And now I'm just adding that into the crock pot and giving it a good stir to combine. By adding the cornstarch, it's really just going to thicken this gravy up really nice. For us personally, we didn't think it needed any more salt and pepper, but make sure you give it a taste before serving and add any salt and pepper you think it needs. Now I'm just adding on my lid and I'm going to let this go for about 45 more minutes to an hour and then it will be ready to go. I just made some mashed potatoes and broccolini on the side and you can see how tender these cube steaks are. I barely had to put any effort into cutting them. They turned out delicious. This is something I have been making for my family for a very long time. Back when I lived with my parents, me and my little brothers all love this meal. We are going to make some $1 million baked spaghetti. First thing I'm doing is just preheating my oven to 350 degrees. And then over to my cutting board, I am chopping up 1 small onion. As you can see in the background, I have my cream cheese just sitting there on the stovetop, kind of getting to room temperature. That way it comes out really easy. Into my skillet, I added 1 pound of ground beef. The onion I just chopped up, and then I'm just adding a little bit of salt and pepper in there. This is just to add a little bit of additional flavor. You really don't have to go too crazy. Once my ground beef is about halfway cooked, I'm going to add in about 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. And I'm just going to let this cook until it is all done. If your ground beef is really greasy, be sure to remove that grease. If it's a leaner ground beef, you really don't have to worry about that though. At this point, I am just adding half a jar of spaghetti sauce into this meat sauce. I do not want it to be too saucy. And we'll just reserve the rest of that sauce to go into our pasta. Into this little bowl, I am adding in 1 block of cream cheese, that is 8 ounces. By having that on the stovetop, it made this really easy to get mixed together. If you're able to do that, definitely do that. It makes it a lot easier. You'll also want to add 2 cups of shredded mozzarella cheese and a 1/4 teaspoon of garlic powder in here. You'll just want to get that mixed together really well and set that aside for right now. While I was working on everything else, I did have 12 ounces of spaghetti noodles boiling over on the other side of my stove. Go ahead and add in 1 full jar of spaghetti sauce and then the half jar from the meat sauce. Go ahead and add that all in there, get it all mixed together. For this recipe specifically, I like it to be really saucy because it bakes in the oven and kind of thickens up a little bit. But if you want it to have less sauce, then just cook up about 1 pound of noodles instead of 12 ounces. Now over to a 9x13 baking dish. I did spray this down to make sure nothing would stick. I'm going to add in half of my spaghetti noodles right now. On top of the spaghetti noodles, I'm taking that entire bowl of cream cheese and mozzarella cheese, and I'm just going to add dollops of this all across the spaghetti noodles. Just spread it around the best you can and make sure you use all of it. Now you can go ahead and add the rest of your spaghetti noodles on there. Just try to spread that over top of that cream cheese and mozzarella mixture. And now you can add that meat sauce that we made. Spread this all across the top as evenly as possible. I stuck this in my oven for about 20 minutes uncovered, and at that point now you can begin to add the rest of your mozzarella cheese. This is about 1 more cup of mozzarella cheese. You'll just spread that over the top nice and evenly. Now this is going back into the oven again uncovered for 10 more minutes, just long enough to get that cheese nice and melty. Here is what my finished plate looked like. This is definitely one of my favorite dinners, and I have not made it in over a year, so I was so excited for this tonight. But this meal turned out so good. That cream cheese just makes this so creamy and delicious. I can't even tell you how much I love this meal. But if you have never made spaghetti like this before, I definitely encourage you to. It's delicious. Next, this is going to be one of those meals you either love it or you hate it. For me, I love it. We are going to make some pumpkin chili. Into this little bowl, I'm adding 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1 teaspoon of cumin, 1 teaspoon of oregano, a half teaspoon of cayenne pepper, a half teaspoon of salt, and a half teaspoon of pepper. I'm just going to mix this up and set it aside for right now. Over to my cutting board, I am cutting up half of a yellow onion just into nice little pieces, along with half of a green bell pepper and half of a red bell pepper. If you've been around here since last fall when I shared this recipe, I did use ground turkey last time, but it's also good with ground beef, so that's what I am using today. I am just going to cook that ground beef up with the bell peppers and the onion in this nice big pot. Once that's done, I'm adding in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic, all of the seasonings, and a half cup of chicken broth. You can also use beef broth or vegetable broth, anything, any type of broth is really fine. I'm going to mix this together really well and just scrape the bottom to make sure I didn't miss any good flavor. I let this come to a nice simmer, and now I'm adding in 1 can of pumpkin. You definitely want to make sure this is pure pumpkin. You'll also need 1 can of diced tomatoes with green chilies and 1 can of mixed chili beans. And finally 1 teaspoon of tomato paste. Now I'm just going to get this mixed together really well. Some people might choose to eat this at this point. It has good flavor, but I like it to have even more of a pumpkin flavor, so I add in 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. I also enjoy a sweet chili, so I'm adding in 2 tablespoons of brown sugar, but if you don't, then leave that out. And then also, this is optional as well, the cream cheese. I'm adding in 4 ounces of cream cheese just to melt down in there. If you don't like cream cheese or you don't want this to be necessarily creamy, then you can leave that out too. This is one of those recipes you can really personalize, so definitely try it different ways before you decide to add everything in. Here's what it looks like when it is all done. I like to add a little shredded cheese over the top and some sour cream. I know this is one of those recipes some people might think, ew, that sounds absolutely disgusting. But where me and my husband come from, there is a pumpkin festival where they have all things pumpkin, and I grew up eating this and I just absolutely love it. Thank you so much for watching today. If you did make it all the way to the end, please leave me a flower down below. I love to see when you guys do that. I really appreciate you being here for yet another video, and I hope to see you back here next time. Bye guys.